This week on Indiana Jones.
Damn it.
Lovecraft Country is back with an adventure-filled episode, and there's a ton to break down. In this video, we'll be explaining some of the episode's biggest WTF moments, including those underground tunnels, the introduction of Yahima, and that crazy twist ending. But before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe so you're notified as soon as one of my Lovecraft breakdowns drops. Well, didn't take long for Montrose to hit the bottle in a recreation of what is basically my Friday night. Now, there are a bunch of really cool clues here, like how the radio in the background talks about the Cold War, claiming the Americans are the civilized ones in comparison to the Soviets. This civilized versus savage dichotomy is echoed in the museum when one of the tour guides in the background talks about Titus Braithwaite being civilized while the natives he met were savages. The irony here being that Titus was the biggest savage of them all. The most important thing about this scene, however, is that Montrose has the Order of Ancient Dawn's Book of Law and Precepts, which George gave him before his death, a book we saw George pick up in a mysterious library in Artem in episode 2. The book depicts a chronological history of Adam, Eve, and monsters. This order is how Montrose, Atticus, and Letty are able to decipher the door leading to the vault later in the episode. But Montrose ends up burning the book, even though in the voiceover we hear George task Montrose with giving that book to Atticus to, quote, protect our family. Instead, Montrose burns it, even saying it smells like Tulsa, which is a reference to the Tulsa race riots, which both Montrose and George were a part of. Christina arrives at Letty's house, telling her that Atticus tried to kill her. It seems she's been able to harness the spell of invulnerability just like her father, Samuel. Last episode, she said members of the Order are lucky if they can harness one spell in their entire life, but it seems Christina has mastered several, making her extremely powerful. But she's really here to retrieve Hiram's orrery, the mechanical model of a solar system Hippolyta was drawn to last episode. When she tries to get in, she's stopped by a force field. Now, we aren't sure how this force field came to be. Was it some other magical force, or was it the witch doctor's magical protection from last episode to ward off evil spirits that's still holding? We even see the blood on the doorway from that protection spell. The orrery isn't here, however. Hippolyta has taken it to George's shop, where she talks to her father asking which galaxy can sustain two suns like this machine has. Unfortunately, it's broken and she can't figure out how to get to the gears since it's locked. Of particular note here, Dee's friend Bobo. Bobo was Emmett Till's nickname. Now, if you don't know who Emmett Till is, make sure to check out my episode 3 breakdown. It seems his friendship with Dee will play a larger role going forward, as episode 8 of this season is apparently titled Jigabobo. Letty finds Atticus at the colored-only library researching about all the mysterious things that have been going on. But as I'll find out, his father has basically taken out all the same books and knows a heck of a lot more than he's letting on. Atticus tells her that he's looking for clues on Titus Braithwaite's vault, which contains a set of deciphered pages from the Book of Names. If he can get those pages, maybe he can start using spells to protect his family. Also, fun Easter egg, this little boy here is reading Journey to the Center of the Earth, which Atticus makes reference to when they later journey into the Earth.
This is some Journey to the Center of the Earth type shit.
Letty and Atticus try to convince Montrose to tell them where this vault is, but he doesn't want them to get themselves killed. Montrose, however, does blurt out an interesting piece of information here that there are 34 other lodges of the Order of Ancient Dawn. Christina plays hide and seek with a bunch of kids. I found this such an odd thing for her to be doing, but she says she's never played before, perhaps hinting at a sheltered childhood. Those of you with a keen eye will see the cops who come to pick her up here are the same racist cops that drove past Letty's home in episode 3. She's taken to Captain Lancaster, who we were also introduced to last episode. He says he runs this lodge of the Order in Chicago and is curious why she's come to his territory unannounced. Apparently, Hiram's orrery is the key to unlocking Titus Braithwaite's time machine, and that's why she's here. There's also this weird moaning man locked away. We're unsure if Lancaster just likes to beat people up and lock them away, or if this is some important character we'll see in future episodes. Regardless, Christina Christina is told to know her place since she's a woman, and women aren't even allowed in the order. This will likely just fuel her even more. The group is off to Boston on a secret trip to find the vault, disguised as a trip to the Astronomy Museum. Meanwhile, Rose is off to apply for a job at Marshall's, something she told Letty she wanted to do in previous episodes. But when she gets there, she finds another black woman already working there, essentially making it impossible for her to land the job. As she tells William later on, they'll never hire more than 2 black women. Back at the museum, Tree, who's on his way to Philly and hitched a ride with the group, alludes to Atticus that Montrose is gay, saying that since he left, him and Sammy, the guy in episode 1 who was caught in the alleyway with another man, had been getting close. If this is true, it would explain a lot more about Montrose's wife hooking up with George. And if I'm going to be honest, this seems to be the only reason why the writers put Tree on this trip, to give that bit of info, so it's likely true. William ends up beating the crap out of 2 men tasked with following Christina. He tells them he has a date tonight, which we'll find out is with Ruby. They hook up and she seems to be totally cool with the fact he has this satanic-like scar on his chest, with Ruby pissed at Letty for not telling her about her mother's secret inheritance, which was actually just money given by Christina. This is likely all an elaborate plan to use Ruby and gain access to the house and the orrery. Atticus, Letty, and Montrose gain access to Titus Braithwaite's wing at night, finding a hidden vault underneath the statue, one which leads to a series of tunnels. Each path relates to one of Titus's expeditions, and I have to be honest with you, I've rewatched this scene multiple times and I'm still confused how they knew which path to go down. It has something to do with an expedition to Guyana, a renovation to the museum, but they end up taking the north path even though Guyana would be south of Boston. If you got this part, please let me know in the comments because I was like, what? Ladies first, as Letty is the first to traverse the plank over this giant chasm. When it starts to magically disintegrate, they have mere moments to input the correct order on this vault door, only to find in the next section they're racing against time as the tide rises. There's this interesting moment between Atticus and Montrose where Atticus gets triggered when he's accused of, quote, leaving men behind. He says he's never left a man behind, referring to his time in the Korean War, but it seems like he has left a woman behind. We haven't really met Jia yet, the mysterious Korean he called in episode 1, but expect her to play a bigger role in episodes to come. Atticus also learns that Montrose burned the Order's book in an effort to protect them. This is an important note in figuring out this episode's twist ending. Letty finds the body of one of her neighbors floating in the tunnel, one of the dudes who died by the ghost last episode and whose body was left beneath the Winthrop home. Not only that, but the tunnel links to her home hundreds of miles away in Chicago. It seems these tunnels don't abide by the rules of space and time. Heck, we just saw a plank magically disintegrate. This makes me extremely curious what the other paths could lead to, other locations or other times. After Atticus and Montrose have their first actual father-son heart-to-heart, they come across a door with a severed arm. It seems as though only those with Titus's bloodline can unlock it, and fortunately for Atticus, he's got that covered. Inside they find Titus's exploration ship and several decaying bodies. Among them holding the deciphered pages is a two-spirit named Yahima, one who possesses the genitalia of both a man and a woman. She speaks Arawak, a language of the indigenous people of South America and the Caribbean, and she tells them that Titus imprisoned her on his ship and killed her family. Somehow Atticus understands her language. Yahima has the ability to decipher the Book of Names, something she knows by having studied the symbols from the cave of Alaman Kundi. Now, I searched Alaman Kundi and nothing came up, so it's likely this was created for the show. However, it's uncertain if we'll ever visit it or if it will be a larger plot point in the future. Montrose takes the pages, which causes the ship to basically self-destruct, and they make their way back up the elevator to Letty's house, taking Yahima with them. But when she opens her mouth, she lets out a wailing scream, which Atticus has to knock her out just to make it stop. That's because Yahima is a siren, cursed by Titus so she can't speak should she ever escape the vault. Meanwhile, Dee and Hippolyta are on their way back home after having found out the group had somehow already made it back to Chicago. She finds Dee looking at George's atlas, which was in the glove compartment, an atlas which shows where he was actually going during the trip, which took his life. You'll see here that Devon County is circled, the place where Artem is located, and Hippolyta turns the car around, likely headed there in her search for answers. Atticus tells Montrose that Yahima doesn't think she can break her siren spell, but in the meantime, Atticus has those pages and hopes he can figure them out. And they share a poignant moment, Montrose even saying,
You grew to be a good man, in spite of me.
This happens mere moments before he ventures into Yahima's room and slits her throat. There has been some discussion if this is even Montrose, and I do think it is. He even says I'm sorry to her before he does it. There's still a semblance of humanity here. But every action Montrose has taken this episode has been for the protection of his son. So this has got to be one too, right? We also know that Montrose knows a lot more than he's leading on. There's something he knows about her in this whole mystery that we don't yet. Something so dangerous he must kill her in order to protect everyone. Just what that is, we'll have to wait and find out. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and for more Bat Takes, you can always follow me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.